Broadcasting from Ireland, featuring interviews with some of the biggest names in magic. Welcome to the Deceive Reality Podcast with your hosts, David Peace and Steve Spade.
And we're back. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Deceive Reality Podcast. Thanks so much for being here. I'm here with Steve and our special guest, Wes. Wes, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing real good. How are you guys?
Doing good now. Steve is in the car again, so he might be popping in and out throughout the episode.
I'm in the car on the road, as always.
That poor car. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But we're going to start off how we usually start off with asking, Wes, how did this whole magic journey begin for you? What got you addicted? Why did you have such a big collection behind you? That sort of question.
So I got started when I was 7 years old. If you saw my fullest appearance, it wasn't made up. It wasn't made up for television. That really was. My dad owned a video store, and some guy just said, "Come here, kid." I was like 7 years old, and he produced a quarter out from behind my ear, and he gave it to me. And back then, I mean, a quarter seemed like a lot of money. It was like giving a kid $1 nowadays, you know. It's like, wow, a real quarter. Thanks. I'm 7 years old, and he said, "You can keep it, really?" And I held on to it, and back then, you didn't have to buckle up in the back of the car, so I would lay in the floorboard and fall asleep on the way home. And when I woke up, the coin was gone. I thought the magician got his money back. I thought somehow that magician's awesome. It rolled underneath the seat, I'm sure, but I thought the guy got his money back. And I asked mom and dad about magic. How does magic work? They got me a magic kit that Christmas. I was a C student in school. I was an average athlete in school. I played football in school. I played soccer in school, but I was average. But magic, man, I could fool my teachers. I could fool my friends, and it was just my thing. And when I went to school for marketing in college. While I was going to college, I worked at a magic shop, and I learned about Doug Henning. I didn't know who Doug Henning was when I was in college. I learned about, Harry Blackstone Jr. and all these other magicians and the history of magic, and it just really ignited that fire, more so than I would have ever gotten if not.
Yeah. I like to think that magician had a reel on that quarter that was like really, really long. And then shoot it back.
6 miles at least.
Yeah, definitely. It would work well. It's the only way. It's my only explanation. But yeah, it is interesting how like something so small like that can really like impact you throughout your life, and you wonder, does that magician even know that he had that impact on you on that small day?
And my dad said he was just a customer at my dad's store, so I'm not sure he really was a magician. I don't. It could have just been a guy that knew how to do a back palm. I don't know.
Yeah. So you never know the levels that people are able to do. That sort of way. It's how it kind of comes. Was it then sort of magic sets and that sort of stuff that got you into magic, or did you have a local magic shop in your area growing up? Because that's something that I really missed out on.
I didn't have a local magic shop till I was in senior year of my high school. It moved to the college town near me, which is like 16 miles down the road. And I was so drawn to it that I ended up, working there. So, I mean, I was spending enough time in there. Might as well get a paycheck as well. So.
Yeah. Just so that you're not giving them all your money. You get a little bit back. It's kind of like just working.
No, they still got it all. It made no sense. But the cool thing was, when I was working at the magic shop, I would get kids' birthday parties and things like that. So I would spend every penny I had of my paycheck on new magic. I mean, yeah. And then the money that I would actually make and bring in would be the kids' birthday parties that I got because people would call the magic shop, "Do you know any magicians?" And they would refer me out. So, yeah. But I never made any money from that magic shop, only through referrals.
Yeah. When you're doing stuff starting off with like kids' magic, I think it's something we all start off with, is doing the kids' magic, which is interesting because it's also one of like the hardest types of magic, is to be able to control a kids' magic, because kids' magic is easy to do badly. You're just a babysitter who's thrown in the room and kids attack you. But to be a good kids entertainer is something that's just like, it's one of the hardest things, and it's interesting that it's an area a lot of magicians start in, but it's like, start with the adults, move to the kids in the end.
And what is it? What is it about magic? I mean, I'm 45 years old now. I've, won Penn and Teller. I've done theaters. I've done resorts. I've done, the biggest, some big theaters around the area and travel around the country. But still, people come to my theater show or a corporate event. Little Tommy, my little son, would have loved this show. You didn't have fun? You were laughing your butt off the whole show. You had a blast. Why does it always go to little kids? I don't know. I blamed Mark Wilson because they had the Magic Land of Alakazam, and it was the clown on Saturday mornings, and he was doing big illusions, and I had Greg Wilson on my podcast, and I said, Gregory Wilson, and I blame your dad, and he's like, no, it's before my dad. It wasn't my dad, so yeah. But I don't understand. It still happens today. You know, you get somebody. I don't know, like David Copperfield. Boy, I wish little Tommy was here. Dude, he just made a UFO appear and a dinosaur appear, but he's not a kid's birthday party entertainer. I don't know.
I remember I had a call from someone who wanted to book me for a kids' party, and I was explaining that I don't do kids' magic. I'm a mentalist. It's not my thing. And they're like, "Oh, I'll be fine. They'll love it no matter what." And I was like, "I put a fish hook in my mouth with strings attached to it, and have people pick one at random. Do you really want me to do that for your 6-year-old's party? I'm not doing it." But yeah, it's even like when you do mentalism, like proper, like I'm guessing your star sign, and they're like, "Oh, Johnny would love that," and you're like, "He's 5. Doesn't know
Right.
what a star sign is."
He doesn't know what
It
a
is
star-
weird.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, we still do everything that comes along. So if there's a millionaire kid out there that can afford us, we don't think of it as a kid's birthday party. It's a family show. And I
Yeah.
don't play to the little kids. I don't do this trick here anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't do little kids tricks. I do my show, and kids happen to be there. So it's a family show. And that's how we pitch it. So you pay us, we're there. We don't care.
Yeah,
But
family
I don't
shows can work well like that way because, like, especially if there's teenagers, like
right.
10 and up, you can just do your you can do card routines on them. That's fine. That'll
Yeah.
work. Okay, yeah. I think family show is a good kind of way of framing it for people. It's like I remember I did a gig recently though where I was like, it's a family show. I can't just entertain kids. The adults need to be involved, and then the adults ran, and I was like, no, back you come.
We did a fundraiser show for Ronald McDonald House. I guess they have them over in Europe, right?
Yeah.
So it was a fundraiser for Ronald McDonald House, and we rented out a theater. And Ronald McDonald pitched it as, "Hey, bring the kids." And the theater was packed with moms and infants. I don't know what they did. So I couldn't get the mom out to help me out of the audience because she had infants on her lap, and I couldn't use infants in the show. So it was like, 80% of our material that we had planned, we couldn't do. So we had to just wing it with the projector screen and do close-up magic, pretty much. Yeah.
That is where having a big repertoire does help because those shows, and I'm sure we'll get to it in one of our segments later on, but that like having the big repertoire as like the people who live with us or boyfriends, girlfriends, wives, husbands who tell us, why do you need to have this much magic? And you're like, it's for those moments when you show up and you can't do your normal set and you need to dig deep and you need to find something that you haven't done in a long time. It's why the collection is necessary a lot of the time.
Well, it's also, and it sounds cliche, and my wife laughs at me, but it's also research.
Yeah.
I got a job. I got a sponsor with Pepsi. It was a local franchise of Pepsi Corporation, and they paid me to go around and do magic shows, but they wanted me to do liquid magic. They wanted me to use their product. Well, I always steer clear of liquid magic because the cleanup. Their props get sticky. It's a lot of cleanup. You got to find a place to dump it in between shows, fill it up. You don't want to spill it in your case. You don't want to spill it. But now I'm getting paid by this company. I'm glad I have the knowledge about all these different liquid magic tricks. I was able to change it up all the time and do different liquid magic tricks for Pepsi.
Yeah.
A craziest thing that ever happened to me was working for Carbonaro. I was just doing my county fair set, and I met another guy that was working on the Carbonaro effect as a magic consultant and animal trainer. And they had just finished season 1, and it was such a popular show that they got hired right away for season 2. Well, this guy was on the road doing the fair circuit, and he saw my show, saw how I handled animals, asked me a whole bunch of stuff, like interviewed me hands on. We'd be there from 3 in the afternoon till 1 in the morning, messing with the animals and showing each other magic. He gave me a job working on the Carbonaro effect. Now you're in a whole other realm. Like one day you show up to work and it's like, we need to make a 700-pound ice sculpture disappear. Do you have any ideas? If you only do, mind reading, you wouldn't know how to make a ice sculpture disappear. If you
Right.
only did silk magic or kids magic, you wouldn't be able to make a car. I don't know. I try to learn everything I can because I'll never learn it all. But I try because you never know when you have to put it in. And with my wife and daughter in the show, I'll give them softer things like, my wife, we do like an I Love Lucy type of act. We had it in our show where she wanted to be in the show more instead of just being the box jumper. I'm a magician too, I've been the magician my whole life. You married into this, and I make fun and we joke around, and then she'll get the attention of the audience and produce a bouquet of flowers and run off stage. I'm not going to produce a bouquet of flowers, but I have several sets, and she can use it, or my daughter can use it. Silk Magic, they can use that. I don't really use it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have that priority, because even I find when you bring like a coin magic move or set, and you apply that now to a piece of paper or something in mentalism, it works great. You take a mentalism piece and you move it into magic with cards, something that works great. It's like you never know where you're going to find the method for your next trick. It could be in anything. It could be inspired by the magic coloring book. That could trigger a book test in your mind. Like that's been done. It's like who knows where you can come up with stuff.
I mean, if you'd have told somebody in the '80s that the spin pad would be such a huge thing and on every talent show,
Yeah.
what? It's just a coloring book, but variations blow people away.
Yeah, absolutely. What was it like doing the consultancy stuff? Can you tell maybe a story or two about working on the Carbonara effect?
So I got hired as the animal trainer magic consultant. So my job was different. I had to get there super early in the morning, and I had to get different animals for the day. So like one day you can look up the skit. It was one of my favorites I worked on. It was called Mighty Mouse, Michael Carbonaro, or the Carbonaro Effect Mighty Mouse on YouTube. And we were in a health food store, and he put a tiny little fancy mouse, is what they're called, into a protein container and screwed the lid on, gave it a little bit of water. And when he unscrewed it, there's this giant rat that came out of it. And I had to go get the animals. But the lady's reaction was just amazing. The tail is still growing. She really thought that protein powder was fast acting. It was amazing. It was just flawless. It couldn't have been any better. But I had to get the mouse and the rat to match color. You had to get it in. It's hard. There's variations, so many different variations. And I had to work with him. I didn't want the rat coming out of the container because he had to be in a load chamber. He's not used to that. So I'm out there and putting him in and then giving him love and then putting him in and waiting a little bit longer and then getting him out, giving him love. Because I didn't want him being in there. I didn't know how long we'd be filming, and he'd be talking to the lady before the effect happened. And the thing just jumps for his neck or just tries to run away. So I was really cuddling this rat and loving on this rat all day long. Because the mouse had to go from a box into a box. That had no problem. But the rat had been in the movie The Terminator and The Walking Dead. It was in Terminator Salvation, The Walking Dead, and Carbonaro Effect. So that rat had a pretty cool resume. So I do a bit in my show where I talk about it, that we went out to dinner that night. The smell of the rat was still in my nose at dinner. What it was the lady we borrowed the rat from, she had given it a bath, and the bath was like cotton candy. So everybody thinks it's a bad smell because I don't really get into detail. I just try to glaze over it. But it was cotton candy smell, and it was so sweet, and I'd worked with him all day long. That smell, I couldn't get it out of my nose.
Who would have thought working with rats, going from the local magic shop all the way to being a rat trainer?
Well, you had rats. I had macaws. We had a capuchin monkey. We had and the macaw bit everybody. It was awful. It was a bad. I mean, we're just borrowing local animals, and the guy that hired me would just make a phone call. Do you have a macaw? He called a pet store, and he said, "Yeah, go get it." So I had to go get it early in the morning, take it back after our shift. We're working 18-hour days, and then I have to drive across Atlanta, sometimes into Tennessee from Atlanta, to pick up an animal or drop off an animal and be back on set the next day. We're getting animals from all over. And yeah, it was crazy. But when I returned the macaw, they were like, "Did it bite anybody?" I'm like, "Yeah, I really fought with this." Yeah, and she said, "Yeah, people poke at it all day long in the pet store, so that's why it's aggressive." Why did we get that macaw? There's no other macaws we could have gotten. But
you tell me this now.
right. And Michael was a little scared because you put it on his shoulder for a pirate scene, is what we were doing. He was a pirate all of a sudden. It was a costume change act, but he ended up with a live macaw on his shoulder. And he was like freaking out that the thing was going to bite his ear off because they were telling him about the bite pressure of a. Everybody, all the other magic consultants were Googling how hard macaws can bite. He's freaking out.
That's the last thing you want.
After that set was over, Wes, get over here. He couldn't remember my name. He was all discombobulated. It was pretty funny. But I had to put a towel over it to get it because it did not want to behave. It did not want to. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, that's an intense day at the office.
It was, and Lord, if it bit Michael Carbonaro, I'd have been in trouble. I'd have been fired immediately. It'd have been, but my job got what I was told was my job got taken. They asked me to get a giraffe for this show, and I had to try to find a giraffe. I'll borrow it from a local zoo. I need to find a giraffe. It's not an easy task, man. I'm calling all these different places, and I found a place that would let me borrow a giraffe for a day of filming for a television show, and it was 15 grand for the day. $15,000 for a cow with a long neck is all a giraffe is. And what I was told was they wanted me to come back for the next season because they liked me a lot, but they found a guy that worked at the local zoo, and he could just bring pets over from the zoo. So they kind of got rid of my position, and they just had a guy from the zoo bring over exotic pets for different things. So
That's good. How did you find working as a consultant? Because I know as like performers, we all like to be the one performing. How did you find like being the person behind the scenes and kind of making the magic happen?
I was taking it all in, man, because I'd never worked in television. I mean, I've done some local, newscasting things, promoting a show on, morning television or whatever, but never really done a television show. And I was just taking it all in. I love the long hours. I had no problem with any of it. And I'm really lucky that I work with my family. So my wife and daughter were there with me. One day we were doing a Wizard of Oz sketch, and the dog that they hired for the day had a comb over because it had its eye sewn shut. So they didn't want to show that. So it was too big. And the art department wasn't talking to the magic department. So they bought a basket for the Toto dog for the Wizard of Oz sketch that was real small, but the dog was like 30 pounds. There's no way it's fitting in that basket. So the day of shooting, it's 8 a.m. Call time's 9. We're gonna shoot this at 12. We're trying to find dogs. So we kept trying to find. Anybody know any puppies? Anybody have any puppies around? Any puppy breeders? Can I borrow? I'm not gonna buy a dog, but I'll rent it for $100 for the day. Can I borrow that? Can I do that? I'm an animal trainer. I'll take care of it. I'll give it milk. You give me a schedule. I'll do whatever I have to do. I need a puppy for the show. We ended up with like 8 or 12 dogs because we had to get them smaller and smaller and smaller because they wouldn't change baskets. I was like, let me go to Target and get another basket. No, we already approved this basket. It's like, golly, I couldn't get a bigger basket. And so that was just intense. But luckily, my wife and daughter were there. And it was awesome because I'm on set with the animal, or my wife is on set with the animal, and myself and my daughter are playing with the other dogs and keeping them entertained and until we have to take them back that night. So I don't know how one person can do 50 kittens and be on set at the same time. So us working as a team, they called us Team Iseli, and we were just running around keeping it. Yeah. So my little girl, she was 2.5 at the time, and we had this puppy, and the puppy was in the load chamber. We had just gotten it. I mean, it just showed up. We didn't have time to practice. And the puppy's in the load chamber. And they're like, this isn't going to work. Wes, take it, work with it. We'll try to film it later. They went to film something else and come back to do that skit. And my daughter had just ran it around the parking lot. She's 2.5 years old. She's having a blast with this puppy. And then when Michael goes to produce it live to tape, he opens up the thing and the dog just plops out like it's dead because it was asleep in the basket. They just wore it out. So we had to retake it again and wake the puppy up and give it some treats. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, that would have been a dark turn.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome.
So, working behind the scenes on that one was the Fool Us. I assume is a similar experience for just dogs running around everywhere and the chaos of that.
There was no dogs. I filmed right before COVID hit. So COVID, literally, people were hitting elbows, and I was like, I know fist bumps, all right, but elbows? That's weird. I saw the producers doing that, and there was nothing really happening. I don't watch the news. I don't. And on the way out, when we left on March 5th, I got an email before we left Vegas, and it said all the buffets have now been shut down in Vegas. And by the time I got home, I'd lost 147 shows on that airplane ride home. It was crazy. But yeah, it was a great experience, man. They really took care of us. My wife and daughter came along with me. That little montage you do before the show. Have you had other Fool Us people on the show?
Yeah, we've had a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that little montage when she looks up to that camera and they're like, and let's see about our next performer. That's all fake. They're not looking at anything. Because some of those people, they literally are still filming that as the first act is on the screen, as the first act is on the stage. The last act of the day might be still filming that little package. So they edited mine. Mine was complete in June, but I filmed my set with Penn and Teller in March. I was on stage in front of Penn and Teller fooling them in March, but they finished my little 15-second package in June.
Crazy.
The magic of movies and TV.
Hey, and it was a whole bunch of emails, whole bunch of phone calls. They wanted all my performance pictures. I must have sent them over 100 pictures, a whole bunch of different videos, just to see where they were going with the storyline. And the guy had David. It was his first year, and it's scary, man, because they can do whatever they want because you're signing everything away, saying take care of me. And one of the guys back there, I said, my little girl did her first show when she was 4 days old. And at the end of the show, we took a final bow with her. I had a bunny in one hand and my kid in the other. And the guy's like, perfect, pause right there. We're going to superimpose a little caricature of a bunny and a kid. Don't do that. Please don't do that. That's going to look horrible. And, it's going to get in kids' birthday party gigs out of this. So my director guy said, yeah, we're not going to do that. I'm not going to let him do that. And my guy really took care of me, made it look good.
It's good to be able to stand for what you want and make sure that it does. Because you don't want to get all this national attention for the wrong type of events afterwards.
Well, and I have my wife there as well because I want to make them happy. I want to make you guys happy today. Did I log on time? Am I on time? I don't want to have anybody waiting on me. So there, it's easy. All right, do that again and pause. And my wife walks over and says, "What is that for?" Yeah, that's not going to look good, Wes. Yeah, you're right, honey. Thank you. Because I'm trying to appease them. But my wife is coming from having my wife with me all the time, man. It's really a blessing. She really takes care of me.
Yeah, it's true.
If you're doing live TV as well, it's always good to bring somebody with you like that, just so they can be an eye in the audience of what people are going to see. Because a producer will just have a narrow tunnel vision of what he wants.
100%. You're exactly right. I've heard that countless times. Bring a magician friend along. My wife is my magician friend. I mean, she's always there. She goes to conventions with me. She knows magic. And she knows what our brand is. She knows what we're going for. We're family entertainers, but we don't want to be. There's a fine line between family entertainers and a kid's magician.
Because this thing as well of that, having somebody else there to point stuff out, it makes it that you're not just the diva artist throwing fits at every little thing, that somebody else is cleaning it up for you, and even let them be the bad guy if it needs to be that sort of way. So you're just a happy artist, you'll do what's been told, but sorry, my agent or whoever the person is saying I can't do it. It's it can be nice to have that sort of separation as well.
Well, I'm really lucky because I just am hands off. I have 5 acres of property here. So after this podcast, I'm going to go hiking. I'm going to go feed my animals. I'm going to go play. I have to do my own podcast tonight with my wife. I'm just going to play. My wife books the shows. She does all the contracts, does all that. She makes all the connections. Somebody calls to book a show. I'm like, hey, let me get you my wife. I don't even talk to them. I can't because I can't be your friend and somebody asking you for a raise, asking you, all right, you paid this last year, but can you go up a little bit this year? I can't be both. Yeah. So it's nice to step away, But
I even do that in emails. If I'm negotiating, hopefully none of my potential clients listen to this, but I just sign the emails as my wife's name.
Right.
And I write in her voice and then sign the emails as that. And then when it gets confirmed, then I step in and reply back. And I noticed once I started signing emails as my wife, people stopped asking for discounts because it's not a one-man show. In their mind, they don't know it's my wife. They just see somebody else's name. At the end of it, it makes you look bigger. That person mightn't have the rights to give a discount and all that sort of stuff. So definitely having someone like that separation can really be useful.
Well, another thing that really helps, we have a publicist. My publicist is out in LA. And when she calls a local media outlet and says, hey, magician Wes Iseli, whatever, they're hoping that she shows up. I mean, she's made this connection. She's made this great relationship with this local media outlet. And they're looking to meet us, but they're also looking to meet her. They really like her. No, she's in LA. She has nothing. She's just, another foot in the thing. And, but it's awesome because if it was just me or my wife calling, it's not the same. But having
Hmm.
a official publicist making those phone calls for us really opens the doors.
Yeah, especially someone who's from LA would give it that bit of gravitas and that sort of stuff, which is really nice.
It's just another town. It really, yeah.
Yeah, just the name just makes people go, especially if it's like if it's a small town show or something like that, and they're like, oh my god, his LA publicist was on to me. That can I could see that playing well in people's minds as well, which is
Yeah.
it's great to have. It's great to have it's that thing of the business side of show business rather than just just flying by night doing a gig as you can, kind of fumbling your way through the booking process, which can be done a lot as well. But if you get the business side right, I guess it makes that all smoother for your career going forward. Have you found that through like trial and error, the kind of process you work with now? Do you have any like horror stories starting out?
Well, I mean, we just didn't know what we were doing. I mean, our
Yeah.
contract, when I just did a magic lecture in Ohio, and I showed them, I have a little making money magic lecture that I had, and it shows on my contract. And these are the questions we asked. And they're like, well, how'd you come up with that? 25 years of doing this, you know? You don't also ask for the phone number, hey, is this a good number to reach you at during the day? Yeah. What's a good number to reach you at during the day of the event? Like, you'll have it on you in case we break down on the way to the event, in case we get a flat tire, in case, it's at a millionaire's party and the gate out front isn't opening, isn't asking us, isn't letting us in. Now it's getting closer to showtime. We need to load in. They get busy and they forget to answer their phone, and it's really frustrating. But you need to have that extra phone number. There's all kinds of different questions. Is it inside? Is it outside? If it's outside, please have a backup for high wind or rain. Oh, we don't
Yeah.
need it. Yes, you do. You have to have a back. I can't perform. I can't perform in 80-mile-an-hour winds. I can't. And your guests aren't going to enjoy it either. So, you just let them know all those different things. But yeah, trial and error. Yeah, we have all kinds of different things that we've talked about. County fairs, it looks like rain. Next thing you know, everything's torrential. We had a 30 by 30 tent, and the rain came all the way in on all four sides. Everything was soaked. We were selling magic coloring books. We were selling decks of cards, and it was all had to be trashed. It was just a torrential rainstorm.
That's where the liquid magic comes back in with all your Pepsi work.
Yeah, there you
Like,
that was fine. That was fine. A little water.
water into Pepsi and make a product placement and just
Yeah.
carry on.
There you go.
When you decided you were going to do Fulas, how long did it take you to come up with that effect? Or I'm sure you had other ideas and stuff.
No, I only had that one idea because
Okay.
who am I to tell her? I love a good analogy, and I can't get this one out, but I'm gonna throw it at you guys. Think about a doctor. You're a cancer doctor. Why don't you cure cancer? You're a cancer doctor. That's how I think when people say you're a magician. Go fool Penn and Teller.
Yeah.
Well, I know what you know. How do I know what they know? There's no way I know what they know. I don't know what they know. But Sean Farquhar sent out an email, and he sent me an email saying, hey, this is Fool Us address or whatever for season 7. They're looking for new acts. Send it out, something to him. If you have something, send it to him. And I was like, man, he gave me all the information. All I have to do is send him a video. The work has been done for me. Thanks, Sean. What do I have? What do I have? And the only thing I had was that coin trick that I've been doing since like 2006. And I was like, that is different. I don't know if it'll fool them, but okay, I'll send them the video. And this video was from a theater show. I don't remember where it was, but the camera was in the way back of the audience. So everybody stood up in silhouette, and you could see through them, and you could see them put their hands up and down, and you could see. If I just had on me on the stage, you wouldn't see the audience. So it had to be way far back. So they got to see everything play out right there live. And it was just perfect. And I sent it to them, and I got a response. I was working a restaurant at the time, doing magic at a restaurant. And by the time I got home, I had an email from them saying, we saw the video. Now, how is it done? What? It's Fool Us. I'm supposed to tell you how it's done?
Yes.
No, we're backstage. We have to make sure you're not going to switch out or have multiple outs for the trick. How is it done? Oh, okay. Well, I told him everything. And then I turned it over to my wife. My wife negotiated the travel arrangements and all that stuff and figured out a time that we could make it. And it was awesome, man. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Were you Did you have to be talked into releasing it then afterwards on as a download and things, or
So I had
is
been
it tough?
selling it since 2015.
Yeah.
I had been selling that trick since 2015. I did that same convention in 2015, and they wanted me to have a dealer stand, and I'm like, well, what do I have to sell that's my own? Well, I started selling that trick, and then when Fool Us happened, I took it off my website, and I was like, I don't want anybody to have it. And then my phone was ringing off the hook. Please, please, please. Well, I'm doing magic conventions and on my website begging people to buy this trick. Nobody wanted it. And then I said, all right, well, I'm going to raise the price to $100, so only professional magicians have it. That's what I want to happen. And then I had a whole bunch of complaints. How dare you? You're ripping us off. You're doing this. You used to sell it for this. And it's like, no, it's not about that. I want it to be mine. I begged people to have it. Nobody wanted it. Now Penn and Teller like it. Now you want it.
Mm.
And then I went through that, and I sold a bunch at $100. And then there was another magician that came out with a product very, very, very similar to mine. And the commercial said, haven't you always wanted to eliminate the audience just down to one person with a flip of a coin? This is something, I've been working on for a long time. And he used my pattern, and this means heads, this means tails, and he eliminated it all down to this. And then the luckiest person is, and the prediction said everything the same, but his method was a little different. And he released that trick. And people were saying, hey, that's not cool. That's, he didn't credit you. He didn't say anything. He's saying he invented this trick. So Penn and Teller, because I sold the rights to Penn and Teller, told them they could have it. And I called Penn and Teller and said, hey, somebody's ripped off the trick. I want to let you guys know first, And they were like, well, that's not right, Wes. It's your trick. You should be credited. This should be your trick. So Teller got on the phone and called around to everybody and told them not to carry that trick unless he credits me. And Teller did all the work. Teller was amazing. Penn and Teller have been hands down the most amazing people and gone above and beyond. They didn't have to do anything for me. I did a trick. They bought the trick. They're done. But they've gone above and beyond. So they're the one that called, Murphy's Magic, and they called, Vanishing Ink, and they called Penguin Magic. And then Penguin Magic's like, all right, well, why don't we bring out the trick? And they said, if somebody's going to make money on it, it should be Wes. So Penn and Teller did a commercial for me saying, hey, we do Wes's trick every night in our show. It's awesome. And then Penguin brought it out with that commercial, and it's been on the top 3 chart since it came out, in August last year. It's still a top 10 trick,
cool.
top 5 trick, on Penguin.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
What was your reaction when Penn and Teller offered to buy the trick off you? that they wanted to perform it that much?
So that night, the night that I fooled Penn and Teller, you're told to do that weird walk where you wave and walk off stage, whether you win or lose. Wave to the audience and walk sideways. Who does that? No one does that. But you're told to do that. So I'm holding the trophy. I'm walking sideways, waving. And then I just walk into a lady. Like, she's right there, like, standing there. And I'm like, she says, wait here. I said, oh, no. Is this a dream? Am I going to wake up? She says, no, you won, but we might have to do, like, a retake. Some magicians, if Allison didn't hold the sign up perfect for that the cameras could get it to read it, they want to have that B-roll footage. They might want to see me flip a coin again just to get me back on stage, just to get a close-up of me flipping the coin. I didn't have to do any retakes, but I've been told a lot of people had to do several other takes with their stuff. So that was just a test. And then I walked past her. Another person takes my microphone off, and then this big paw grabs me by the shoulder and turns me around. And he said, hey, man, it was Penn. And he said, hey, man, I wasn't lying out there. I have been working on something like that, and I love that trick. And that's the best trick. And Teller's like, no, I like it too. Shut up, Teller. Now, listen, I've been working on something like that. And he just shut him down. And I said, well, guys, I love you. If you want it, it's yours. Because it was a trick I was selling for, whatever. Yeah. I'll give you a copy. Whatever I can do for Penn and Teller, I love you guys. And they were like, no, we can't be doing other people's act. That's not why we get people on here, just to do their act. And Penn really hemmed and hawed about that for almost 2 years. And then he had this public speech that he was supposed to do. And he's like, this would be great for that. Because I can do my speech, and all I have to bring is $50, and I can play with the whole audience, and I can do it. but he ended up talking Teller into doing it in the show, and that speaking gig didn't happen. So the way they do it on stage is Teller flips the coin and Penn talks to the audience. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cool to have something that you just came up in the top of your head, and now like two of the biggest names in Magic are performing it. It'd be nice.
It's amazing, and I've become friends with them, and it's one of those things where I'm a kid. I've loved Penn and Teller my entire life. My dad owned that video store where that guy pulled the quarter out from behind my ear. I have a copy of their maybe it's up here now. Yeah, Penn and Teller Get Killed right there. It's a VHS tape. I mean that came out in like '88. I was 12 years old. I mean I've loved Penn and Teller as far as back as I can remember, and now get a phone call and it's their face that pops up on your phone. What?
Yeah. That's cool, man. It's gone full circle.
Yeah, it really has. They're amazing people though. Penn has this persona of being gruff and rough with people. He's the biggest teddy bear and the kindest hearted person I've ever met in my life. I love him so much. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just call out his number there for everybody to take it down. And, But yeah, it's a cool experience, and it's cool to have like a routine like that, because I always think that pack small plays big, as you were saying, like you do illusions and that sort of stuff as well. But to have something like the biggest illusion and then just like one coin and you're good. It's
But it's also fun when you're doing a theater show. Think about you saw me on Fool Us, but a theater atmosphere. You're getting everybody up on their feet. You're getting their blood flowing. It's great as like a beginner to a show, because you're letting them know that it's interactive. It's going to be fun. You're going to win a prize. And my blow off for the trick afterwards is another mentalism, a bank night effect. So the person that plays Allison, well, you didn't even get to play the game. Come over here, and then she plays a bank night effect with me. So it goes full circle. So everybody in the room, even that lady, gets to help in the show. I love it so much, man. If you have the trick, you just got to watch out for kids, because kids will cheat if you're doing a family theater atmosphere. So when I do like family shows, I'll usually get 5 kids on the stage, and the whole audience watches those 5 kids, because kids change their mind, or I don't want to play a game. No, dude, you were eliminated. I know you were, but whatever. We'll keep going. The game will take all day. It'll get boring really fast. So that's how we do like family.
It's almost like if you're playing like cops and robbers with a kid, and you're like, "I shot you, you're dead," and you're like, "No, you missed."
But now I'm the entertainer, right? So I'm playing with the kid saying, "Nuh-uh." What do? There is no out for that, right? So I'm telling the parents, police your children. If the kid's out, set him down. I can't be here all night.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, a good thing you could do there as well is like, if you have something that you will be using a kid for later on, be like, "Now I'll only use an honest kid later on. So if you cheat, that'll eliminate you for the rest of the show," and just try and.
I did a school fundraiser. It was like an elementary school, so there was a lot of little 9, 10, 11-year-old kids there, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 kids, and then families. And I told them you had to be 12 or older to play, but kids have a seat, and then I just played the game with the adults. So you can do that as well.
It's gambling, so.
Well, and the other thing is, man, I don't want to be sitting there all day long. All these kids saying, "Nuh-uh." Tommy picked heads. No, I didn't. Well, you can't rewind the tape.
Yeah.
And you got 1,000 people in the room, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's at that sort of point, it's trying to find things that look super obvious. It's very hard to find. It's like, sit on the floor or stand on one leg. There are the options. We're gonna get that clean and clear. We know what's happening. Yeah, and it's very hard to pretend that you weren't sitting down.
Right.
But yeah, it can be the trust. That's always the time when you're doing any sort of routine like that. It's even like a witch hand thing, like what Darren Brown does with the whole audience, and you're just like, I like one of the lines he uses is like, "Oh, that's just over half of you, and if you include the people who are lying to play along, it's even more." So it's like it's a cool way to influence it that way.
I feel like witch hand just took off in Europe like crazy. Like every magician did a witch hand. Like everybody. See, over here, I didn't feel like it was as much, but over there, it really took off.
Yeah, it's because Darren is so big in, like, especially in Ireland, the UK stuff. He's like the biggest magician. So then anything he does, people go, "Oh my god, that's really cool. I'll do that as well." But it's nice to be able to put your own twist on things then when you can as well, just to try and get So you're
Right.
not just doing, I'm just going to do Darren Brown's act and see how that goes.
There was so many. There was
Yeah.
so many different versions for a while as well. There was like propless ones and gimmick ones. I mean, it did go crazy. Like there was so many.
Now, do you guys talk methods or anything on here?
Yeah, we're kind of open, like nobody, especially now 40 minutes in, no lay people are
Yeah.
watching at this time.
Okay. So Charles Gauchi had a cool version. Did you guys ever see that? There's a legit
yeah.
Charles Gauchi. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I haven't heard it.
Steve, you were laughing. Do you know what I'm talking about? Charles Gauchi's version.
Well,
It was.
Is that the Buds?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Yes. So he had that little they were magnets inside of like pill capsules, but they weren't pill capsules. They were plastic that they wouldn't melt in your
Yeah.
and they put their hand up to your head, and the magnet would go. You could hear it in your ear, and you could tell them which hand it was in. Dude, I love that trick so much.
Yeah.
So beautiful, so beautiful. That's my favorite. That's my favorite. Low tech. I love it. Yeah.
that's very cool. It's cool to have a method that you can do as well that is.
I remember when that came out and people were using
like
a PK ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many different methods for that sort of stuff, because it's always a thing when you have something like hidden in your hand or something like that you have to ditch. But a method where you don't have to ditch anything is great. It's just
You're
so clean.
clean. Short sleeve. You just have them put their hand up. It seems so fair. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like those methods I really like is when you're meant to be feeling something and it's like a tactile mark. I love that because you're like, I'm feeling for something, and there it is. That's great. There you go. I felt the nail nick, and we can carry on.
Yeah.
Which is-
Yeah.
One of the things you talked about earlier as well is your own podcast. What kind of inspired you to start a podcast as well, and how did you find doing podcasting?
So mine's a little different. I love magic, but that's all I do. I only do magic, right? That's my job. So I'm like, you know what? I will have magicians on. I have magicians on probably 3 weeks out of the month, 2 to 3 weeks out of the month. And my wife and I do a podcast just on our own once a month. And then I try to get somebody from another industry, whether it's a stand-up comedian, whether it's somebody else that has their own television show on one of the networks that I have my television show on. I just want to know how other people, how does the other side of the world live? I mean, my life is, I'm so in a bubble, I don't know how the world works. My wife is my boss. She's my best friend. She takes care of the show. She's my assistant. Also, she's a homeschool teacher. She's a fitness coach. She takes care of my twin boys. She homeschools my daughter. And we have an RV that we go to do shows in. So we have a big bubble of a family here. It's like a traveling circus, right? We're in this world. We do our show and go home. How does the world work? You know, you hear these families that say they have to take their kids to soccer practice on Saturdays and ballet on Wednesdays, and then they, do this on this day and this day. How do you, and when do you get groceries, and how does that work? I don't have a clue. So I had a marriage counselor on here that I learned a lot. Not that my wife and I have any problems at all. We have a great marriage. But she had a television show on one of the networks that my show runs on. And I was like, let's get her on. She's a great lady. She's from England, and I learned so much, man. We have fitness people on. We have health coaches. We had a dentist that had her own reality television show. I hate a dentist, but our conversation with that lady was so great, and I learned so much. Doesn't sound entertaining. I told my publicist that I love the interview with the dentist. She's like, yeah, that doesn't sound good, but it was awesome. It was so much fun. Like I said, I don't know how the other half live.
Yeah. And can you talk to us a bit about your show as well, and what that's like to doing it and all that sort of stuff?
So the television show or my show?
Yeah, the television show.
So I had been filming, since I worked on the Carbonaro Effect. I told my publicist at that time, I said, man, I would like to get a TV show. I don't want one like him. I just want to do a magic reality show. Because that's the main question people say is, how do you guys make it work? You homeschool and you're on the road 400 shows a year, and you have animals, and you have this, and how does that work? So we just started filming a reality show and putting it on YouTube. It was a vlog. And what's cool is if you're a parent, you get to see your kids grow up on film, and you have a reason to film it. But from a business standpoint, everything we did pretty much was tax deductible. If we went to the zoo, all the expenses that day was tax deductible because we're filming. It's a family outing, and I'm getting paid for it. Because I want to sit at home and book more shows. If I have a day off, I did something wrong. I need to book more shows. But now I'm still working. I'm videotaping. Then I have to come home and edit the footage. I'm a workaholic, right?
Yeah.
So that made it work for me. So that gave me a reason to have family time. That gave me a reason to. I'm still working, but it's creating an illusion that I'm having family time, right? I am having family time, but I'm filming. And we did that for years. And then after I did Fool Us, my publicist sent out press releases saying, they have their own reality show on YouTube, and they have done it for years. And it's a weekly episode. He's done it every single week for, at that point, 6 years. And there was a television company that said, we'd like to buy it, just for my notoriety of fooling Penn and Teller. It was a streaming service called Jewel TV. I worked with them for 2 years, learned a lot. And then a syndication company called me and said, we'd like to buy your content. So now I'm in 3 different channels on Roku and Amazon Fire, and cable satellite syndication. I'm on 2 different channels.
That's very cool.
Five channels. Yeah.
That's very cool. It's interesting to see, like a different type of magic show where it's like the behind the scenes, which a lot of people don't get to see. People get to see how hard it is to do magic full time.
Well, every episode is different. So I guess you guys saw Seinfeld over where you are.
Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld's show. He started out where he was on stage with the mic and he'd sell a joke, and then he'd get into the show. Mine is I might be on stage doing illusion. I might be doing street magic. I might be doing close-up magic at an event. I'll do one trick, then it's the cold opening, and then it's whatever we're into. We might be in a theater. We might be at a county fair. We might be doing a resort show, or we might have a family fun day. But that's what it's like being on the road doing 400 shows a year. We have an RV and a trailer that we travel around with, and it's me, my wife, my daughter, my twin boys, and a babysitter that's on the road with us. It's 6 of us doing our shows. And even if I have a close-up show, I bring the RV, and I bring all 6 of us. Because it might be a 5-hour trip each way, but we might have family time on the way home. Or, at least we'll have dinner together and keep it all together.
What if it's like a restaurant gig 1 mile away? Bring the whole RV, bring everyone there.
So, no, what I would do, if it was 1 mile away and it was just a restaurant gig, I'd probably just tell the babysitter to stay at home. But my wife would still come because she videotapes.
Yeah. It's great to get the footage and that sort of stuff too, then, yeah.
But people think it's crazy that, I bring my wife to even close-up shows. But yeah.
Yeah, that's great. It's great to have it. Speaking of doing shows, we have a segment on this show called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which is about a performance that maybe didn't go exactly to plan. It might have started off well and then slowly went downhill to disastrous effects. I know as magicians, we've probably only ever messed up a trick once in our careers when we're performing. So did you have a story that comes to mind?
Boy, I wish you'd have told me ahead of time. I'd have talked to my wife. That torrential rainstorm, I remember being awful.
Yeah.
I have a trick in my show. There's a mini cube that everybody does. It's a 2-cube zag, right?
Yeah.
But I got one back in 2008, and it's a 3-cube zag. There's a tube in the top, a tube in the middle, and then it zigzags. Then you put swords in it. It was at a county fair. It was over 100 degrees, and it was one of the last tricks we did in the show. Now, we're worried about the animals. We're worried about this, that, the other thing. And we're getting out. She puts me in the box, and I have handcuffs and chains. I have to get out of that and get in position really fast. And it was new. We'd only done it a handful of shows. And when I got in it, she tried to put the tubes in, and it wasn't going in. She was hitting me every time it wasn't going in. What is going on? What is going on? And she's, what do you do? There's no out. She's pushing tubes, and nothing's happening. And I said, oh, no. And she said, what? I said, put that tube down, grab another tube quickly, like you got the wrong tube. I was in the box backwards. That was it. That was it. But it was over 100 degrees. My head, I'm in a box now in 100 degrees outside. I wasn't thinking correctly. And when she put me in the box, usually she puts me in the box and spins it. But when she put it in the box, she couldn't spin it right away because of the way the stage was. And when you're in these boxes, when you do illusions, you go on muscle memory. When I do metamorphosis, I close my eyes the entire time. Yeah. It sounds stupid, but some stages you can't count on having this. The light might be going over the box, but not in the box. So I have to go in the blind every time. When I'm taking the cuffs off, I have to put them here. I have to take the cloth and put it here so she can grab it. So I have to roll it for her to be able to feel to grab. And then when we do the switch, I couldn't explain it to anybody else because we're just going past each other. But I don't know what she does, and she doesn't know what I do. We've done it so many times, we have to do it that way. But when she put me in that box and couldn't spin the box, that was problem number one, because the lats of the stage, clunk, 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 she couldn't spin it around. Problem number two was, I was like, oh no, she can't. Oh, I see the problem, and I'm looking through the crack. She can't spin the box. That's weird. And then I got in position, and I got on the wrong side. That was it. So once I fixed it, for us, it was like that was the worst show ever. The audience, it looked like she just, shoot, it's this tube and then this tube. And that's what it looked like to them. But for us, it was a nightmare. It was like, what kind of illusionist gets in the box wrong, you know? But we have other things in our head that people don't know. They don't realize there's other context going on.
Yeah, you got to sharpen the tube and then put it in. And
Oh, yeah, that would work.
At least it was a tube and not the sword that
Right.
was kept hitting you. Just that wouldn't be a good look.
So we do the sword basket as well, and you don't think about it, but my wife will get a new top, and she's like, "Isn't this pretty? It's sparkly. Yeah, it's great, but it might be too baggy, so the sword will get it." And you just don't think about little stuff like that. She's in position, she's good, but the cloth, we didn't test it out ahead of time. So I've ripped her clothing, I've scratched her with the swords going across her. And then when I step in the box at the end, I do big stomps. She's supposed to be in position. It's her fault. And she's had some pretty big bruises. But, yeah. It's show business.
Yeah.
She makes sure the next time.
Absolutely. I think that's a great story, especially getting the view of illusions, because I know it's not something that a lot of people do. So it's cool to get a look inside that world. For people who are watching this, they want to follow you and what you're doing. What's the best place for them to keep track of everything that you're up to and to maybe catch some of your show?
Yeah, so Facebook. I put. We're still doing the original vlog. So the original vlog might be 18 minutes or 30 minutes. That's just kind of where I just put material out, and it looks like a show. But for the television show that gets into syndication, it's very much edited down, and for time's sake and everything, and production values put way more into it when it goes to that. But you'll see if you watch the vlogs, you're pretty much seeing the television show, but you're seeing extra. We have a Patreon where we teach magic. You get the television show because you're paying for it. You get it without commercials. You get our podcast without commercials, and then we have our podcast guests come on for a Patreon extra exclusive after our content. So they get that as well. So Patreon has a whole bunch of stuff, and it starts at $5 a month. But our website, wesiseli.com, has our show schedule up there and all the links to everything else. Yeah.
Cool. Absolutely. I definitely recommend people to check that out, especially if you're looking to do magic professionally and want to know what it's like to be on the road performing all the time. I'd say it'd be very, very information heavy for people there.
And tell your guests, or tell your customers there, your viewers, if they have any questions and they're into magic, email me. I'm an open book. And one of the coolest things that I've learned over my career is when people ask a question, why do you do that trick that way? It's like, because I always have. Maybe you don't think about it, or they'll ask you a question about marketing. Have you ever tried this? No. Tell me about it. Sometimes I can help them, and it's easy because I know. But if I don't know, then I'm learning from them. So feel free, ask me questions, because I learn a lot when I'm helping other people out too. So, and I don't charge for consulting or anything. Just don't take advantage of it. Don't not 50 emails a day.
Yeah. Keep it at 49 emails a day max.
There you go.
Yeah. Happy at that.
So I just want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it, and spending time and sharing some amazing stories with people. And we'll definitely have to have a part 2 at some stage to go over the rest of your career outside of what we've covered so far.
Anytime. I'll have my wife join me next time, and she can help you with the good, the bad, and the ugly too, because I'm sure. I got one more story, good, bad, and ugly. I just remembered.
Go for it.
Let's hear it.
Because I have my wife with me, it helps out so much. I was doing a resort show, and the way this resort, we tell them not to do this, but they set the kids in the front, and all the adults are in the back. These kids don't know each other. And we tell people, do what Disney does. If you go to a Disney show, they don't set random kids in the front to see Mickey Mouse. You sit with your family. And these kids were just picking on each other. And they stood up and they started fighting. These are kids on vacation, and they're having a fist fight in the front row. Well, I'm like, whose kids are these? I'm on microphone. Whose kids are these? The parents are embarrassed. So I just grab one of the kids and hold him up in the air. I'm like, whose kid is this? And I set him on the stage, just trying to separate the kids because he was getting his butt kicked. The people that were working the event, the people that were my bosses, they were in the back. They were on their cell phones. They weren't paying attention. And, so my wife has to go out there and, if something happens during the show, she has to take care of all these different things, So having her with me, man, just really helps. But yeah, separating a fight, that's the first time and last time that's ever happened. But it's crazy. You never know what you're getting with these shows, and this is one of my resort shows. This is a great paying gig. These people have money. It's a $500 a night hotel stay at the resort. And their kids just didn't like the other kid next to him. So I don't know that Copperfield's ever broken up a fight mid-show. It was 7-year-olds. I could do
it. Yeah.
Everybody needs a wife/bouncer at their shows, and then
yes, that's what I recommend.
That's it. Go out there and find a wife that likes magic, and forget about your card tricks. You know enough tricks.
Yeah. So she was into drama in school. She was in all these different plays and everything, and she wanted to be an actress. And her parents were like, "No, you need to get a real job." So she went to college to be a degree in religion. And she's like, "What am I going to do with this? I'm working in a church basement. Can I come work for you?" So I let her book the shows for me, and she started coming to shows with me. And slowly but surely, I started working her into the show, and now it is where it is.
Cool.
So, yeah.
It's awesome. It's cool that you can all work together and be on the road. That it's an awesome, dynamic overall. Like, it's very cool.
Well, the kids grow up so fast, man, and it really it sounds cliche, but if I send them to a regular school, I wouldn't see them. So having them on the road with us and having them experience. I mean, my little girl got to ride an elephant. She got to play. I have pictures of my little girl riding to a radio station with a capuchin monkey on her lap because I was working with that animal trainer. I mean, what 2-year-old? She was in a diaper and the monkey was in a diaper, and they were both asleep because we had like a 5 a.m. call at the radio station. It's a fun childhood. It's got to be.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. That's amazing. So, thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate it, and thanks everyone for listening. And we'll definitely be back with more podcasts and more stories to go. So, thanks for coming on, and hope everyone has a great day. And best luck with your podcast later as well.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.